In lessons before, we already talked about, scales and chords like major, minor chords. Now let's talk about, further into harmony. So let's talk about how you could make chords that you could use to actually make a chord progression, to make a harmony out of the chords, that would go well together, that you are to be certain that they will play nice with each other. So the best way to go about it, I would say, is, let's say, to use all the chords from one scale. Let's see C major scale that supports only, white notes, which is going to be easiest for us to play with. What we're going to do is we're going to create, simple triad chords, which contain, all of them contain each 3 notes, like the ones I used to show you major and minor chords. So we will start, from having this C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C again. So we will start from the C note, taking that one. And how do we create that major triad? So we skip the next note in the scale, which would be this D. We skip that one, and then we write in the one that comes after. So first, third, and fifth from the first note we are, using. So first, third, and then we skip one. Fifth is this. Done. That's our C major chord. Like that, C major. So we take the next note, the D. So from D, skip one, skip the E, take the third, skip the next one, take the fifth. Now we have the D chord that belongs to this C major progression. So by using the notes from the C major scale, this is what we got, and it is a D minor chord. If we did that, made it a major, this note would not belong in the C major scale. So we're just using C major notes to make the chords that actually belong to the scale. So we have a D minor now. Let's use the E note next. So we have the E, we skip one, write in this note, skip one, write in this note. So from the E, so that's E is the first, third, and fifth. In this scale, we get an E minor, again, a minor chord. Sounds sad. We take the F. We do the same thing with the F and all the rest of the notes. So we skip one, write in the third one, skip one, write in the fifth one. So second and fourth are skipped. And now we have the F chord that belongs to the C major scale, and that is an F major. You see, it sounds happy, and I can say that it's a major, because I can recognize by the distance between the first and third. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones. And in the minor, it's 1, 2, 3 semitones only. For a minor chord, and for a major, 4. So let's go on with the next. We take the G, skip one, write in the third. We skip the next one, write in the fifth, and we have a G major chord again. Just like that. We use the A note next. Skip one, write in the note, skip one, write in the next one. Again, we have an A minor. Just like that. And then the last one, again, skip one, write in the third, and this looks like it's going to be a minor chord. You see 1, 2, 3 semitones till the next note that actually defines it. But once we skip this white note and write in the fifth one in the scale, it actually does not become a minor, because you see in a minor chord it's 1, 2, 3, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4 until the fifth. Now we have 3 again till the fifth one, so it is going to sound weird probably. Just like that. Well, it's called a diminished. So we have a C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and a B diminished. So when we play all of these in succession, this is what it's going to sound like. And it's actually expecting another chord at the end right there. Not only just because there is 7 of them and it expects, the eighth note to be, in the timing of a 4/4 signature. So we could use this C, of course, and it will want to resolve to this C note because it is the root key, of course. So let's do that. Write the C major again, like this. So we have the C major chord, the same one, like the one in the beginning. If I throw this down an octave, see, it's the same chord. So let's see how that sounds now when we play it from the beginning. Nice. So that in its own is a chord progression already. So playing chord to each note of the C major scale, we already have a chord progression. So now that we have all these chords and we actually do have a chord progression happening, I could divide this into two and not use that chord progression, but let's say use these chords randomly to try to get something out of them. So let me pick one by random like this. Let me start from F. I don't know why. I'm just going to do it randomly to show you that even randomness can get you somewhere. So I'm going to use the A. I'm going to take, I don't know, let's say this one. Use that too. Just randomly, just to see what's going to happen. And use this. Maybe if I thought about it, it would have been better because I do know already how some of those are good to resolve a harmony, how some of those are good to actually build tension in a harmony, in a chord progression, but even like this, even just randomly, let's hear what that sounds like. So even that is a chord progression. Now, what faults there is, that in that entire chord progression, we don't have the actual root chord that our entire chord progression is in, the C major, so we don't have that C major. So let me exchange one of those for C major, like this. So we can do that. We have a chord progression. Now, what we can do to make those sound better, like I could drop these by an octave, just like that. And just to note, each one of these chords is made up of those three notes. So even if I change any of those notes, let's say this note C, I bring it like all the way up here, where it's also a C note. And let's say this note E, I bring it all the way down here. Now that what you just heard is also a C major chord. That's it. It doesn't matter where on the keyboard those notes lie. If you play a combination of those three notes, C, E, and G, you get a C major chord. Simple as that. So I can actually try to manipulate this chord, by putting some of these notes an octave lower, and let's say these two again an octave lower. Maybe this one can stay up. So let's see what this is going to sound like. I'm just going to play with these notes and just move them an octave up or down to see if I can make my chord progression sound any better. Sounds okay. It's not the best chord progression in the world, and there are things that you can do to actually make that chord progression, much more likable, much more standard, because there are some standard chord progressions that work every time, and those standard chord progressions are used for so many pop, rock, musical hits that were released, throughout decades. So to continue, let's go through some of the most popular chord progressions. Now that we have all of this, I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to leave in this part right here only the chords that we actually had, like this, maybe even, so this is like that, copy this up, yeah, right there. So I'm going to leave all the chords that we actually have for this C major scale so that I can reuse those, okay, like this. And out of all of those, let me copy this again too, yeah. So let's see what are really popular chord progressions that we could use. So one of those is 1-4-5. So let's say 1, the first, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So we use the 4. Let's say we put it right here, or let's say somewhere in the middle. So we use the 4. That's F for us. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the F. And then we use the 5 after it. So it's the G, like that. So let's make all of these longer so that they, do kind of a legato. Let's listen to what this sounds like. So really popular. You can recognize a lot of songs that were written, with something like this. Like, let's say, you can find Beatles, you can find the La Bamba song. You have a lot of songs that actually follow this chord progression. The rhythm at which this chord progression is played is probably different for all of them. So they could have just, done this and then. And the actual rhythm, the way the chord is played during its duration, or the actual duration of the chord during the progression, we could have changed this to, let's say, this, and make this F longer, like that, and it would still be the same chord progression. It's just the duration of the chords. So the actual length matters into the feeling, and how long it's going to be. So you can see that even this chord progression of 3 simple chords from this scale can be made into a lot of different things. Now, there are other chord progressions we can also use. So let's say to all of this that we already have this 1, 4, 5 progression. So let's say we take this 6th chord, insert that right here. So we go 1, 6, 4, 5. And as you can see right here, this 6th chord is a minor. So we have a major, minor, major, major. Yeah, let's hear that. Nice. I can even make this one into a different kind of a, A minor chord. So I can inverse it and use one of the inversions of it, to give it kind of a, more familiar feel with the rest of them, so they stay in the same height. Let's see. So there is a lot of songs written just like this. Now, of course, there are other chord progressions. So let me show you some more of these. Let's go with this. Let's go with 1, 5, 6, 3, 4. So 1, and then I'm going to copy this one, 5, and we're going to 6, 3. Let's go with it, 1, 5, 6. Yep, like this, and we're going to use the 3, 4. These two at the end. So, yeah, like this. So just like that. Now, one of those is not right. So this is not right. Of course, when I copied it, I didn't pay attention, but you see that one was bad. So let's move that. So the only difference right here is that this first one, the C major was inversed, but that's all. So we have a C major, we have a G major, A minor, E minor, and then an F major. We can, of course, inverse those chords too. Sorry, like this. Yep. Very nice. So actually, I might just keep this. I haven't made a song with this chord progression in a while, but as I've told you, it doesn't have to be as simple as this, just chords playing one after another. I could have changed the timing just as easily to, accommodate something else, to do, let's say, this, and then make this one longer, like that. Just as easily. So out of those chord progressions, as I've told you, the order of chords and the order that the chords go in, we can make a lot of different things. And the rhythm doesn't have to be as sparse as this is. So the rhythm comes in after, that's a thing of, rhythmics, but the chord progression does stay the same even when I do this. So I could actually do that. Nice. Let me just make this one shorter, just to make it even. Yep, like this. It's a very simple chord progression. It's in thousands of songs most probably. I don't really know the number, but it's in a lot of songs most probably, and who knows in which kind of rhythmics. But just using something like this, making the chords that you can use and then putting them in orders that are really popular, and you can find those always on the internet. You can use the ones that I've shown you in the video. The point is you can make your own chord progressions just by using these and using your feeling, using your intuition on how it sounds. Sometimes the rules can actually help you get to a result faster, but sometimes it can disable you to think out of the box. If you know too many rules and you try to stick to those rules, you might not experiment and get something interesting, because a lot of interesting music actually goes out of this rule where all of the chords are from one scale. But as I've told you, it needs experimentation. And if you listen to some of even the electronic musicians today who experiment with this and don't make music, always, as you would say, by the book, like let's say you listen to some of the Dead Mouse's tracks, you will hear that a lot of those chords don't actually coincide with this. And he uses this thing where he actually makes the chord progression as he goes. He doesn't really think about it, doesn't really follow any rules. He just makes what sounds good to him. So you can also do that, and that's also going to give you results, maybe even prettier and different, more exotic results that are going to give you a more original product, more original music, and composition. So think about that too.